Well, this is a tweet that has made so many people lose their shit. It is a innocuous tweet, I might add. But this is what Donald Trump tweeted out just last night. I have asked Secretary of State at Sec Pompeo to closely study the South Africa land and farm seizures and expropriations and the large-scale killing of farmers. Quote, South African government is now seizing land from white farmers, unquote, at Tucker Carlson at Fox News. There is literally nothing controversial about this at all. It's what's literally happening if you look at mainstream outlets. They will have in their headlines, I believe BBC even had a headline that said, South African government is now seizing land from white farmers. I mean, Fox News said it too on Tucker Carlson, who's not a extremist in any regard. But this is how other outlets spun it. We have Vox right here. I mean, they are pretty cancerous, but this is really bad. Trump's tweet echoing white nationalist propaganda about South African farmers. Explain. What does this have to do with white nationalism? This has nothing to do with Trump echoing white nationalist propaganda. He doesn't watch white nationalist things. Tucker Carlson is not a white nationalist. Okay? That's just an absurd claim that has no facts in any regard about it. But they could have made this headline fine if they'd gotten rid of the echoing white nationalist propaganda. If they just said Trump tweets about South African farmers, it'd be fine. But then they go, there's no evidence of genocide campaign against white farmers. He never said that. That's not his point. You're putting words into his mouth and acting like he's saying something he isn't. You're Kathy Newmaning him. I don't even know if that's a verb anymore, but Scott Adams says that a lot. That's literally what he's doing. This article is literally doing a Kathy Newman saying something that they're not saying. So you're saying there's a white genocide happening. No, he didn't say that at all. But they go through a lot of stuff here. It's probably pretty entertaining to read, but I'm not going to waste my time reading Vox. But don't worry, it gets better. The wokest publication on the internet, The Root, says, this is how they frame it. Their headline reads, Flint still doesn't have clean drinking water, but Trump is tweeting about white South African farmers. So, I mean, they're obviously what they're trying to do here is frame it as Trump doesn't care about black people, but he does care about and is tweeting about white people. Even though he can do two things at once, and black unemployment and Hispanic unemployment are at record lows, and black people that work with him love him and say he's not racist, and he has black friends. It's kind of hard to be a racist and have black friends. And the Flint, Michigan issue, I honestly don't know if it's still bad. When they say they still don't have clean drinking water, like, if they still didn't, I would think there'd be more of a national outcry. So honestly, I don't know what's happening there. But I can tell this is a pretty woke article. Oh, God. It's pretty bad. I'm not going to read the whole thing of this here because it's a waste of time. But like the headline alone shows how ridiculous they are. And of course they connect it to white nationalists. Just because white nationalists are talking about something doesn't mean it's a white nationalist thing or Trump is echoing white nationalists. That's a false equivalency of the highest regard. And then the Daily Intelligencer says, Trump echoes neo-Nazi propaganda about South Africa that he heard on Fox News. Oh, so Fox News is now neo-Nazi propaganda. The timing of this couldn't be worse for this fucking publication because Trump the other day literally deported the last Nazi in the country. He literally deported a Nazi with ICE, but he echoes neo-Nazi propaganda according to this. I really want to see what their headlines are that has to do with neo-Nazis. It says, here's a quick explanation of what was actually happening in South Africa and how President echoes neo-Nazis what is happening there. Quick explanation, this is long as shit. Let's find the part where they're talking about the neo-Nazis. I think it's because they're getting on this large-scale killing. Well, that's kind of what it is. It's definitely unprecedented, and it's definitely a problem.
Well, the thing is too, like they like to go and misrepresent these things that he's saying. Just because, like, Richard Spencer might talk about this doesn't mean it's the only thing that he talks about. And like these are two very big issues that they're bringing up. Like the farm killings is one whole thing, and then the other thing is the expropriation, which there's evidence. Like they admit that that the South African governments are actually expropriating the land. Like, this isn't even controversial, but they just, they bring up, oh, the large-scale farm killings, that's, racist propaganda. And, thankfully, Lauren Southern, she did a whole documentary on this, and we actually covered that in our farmlands video. But the fact of the matter is there's only roughly 40,000 white farmers left in South Africa. There was 60,000 I believe it was 20 years ago, and they've been increasingly dropping out. I think the BBC said there was 30,000. They said it was half of 60,000. It's really hard to go and find these details. And the farm attacks, they go and claim, oh, well, there's not this many farm attacks. Well, it's really hard to go and find any actual evidence of this because in 2007, the South African government decided to not go and report on these. They stopped reporting on farm attacks, which was just the only reason they're doing that is to cover it up. And according to, inquiriesjournals.com, which cites works by Sean Tiek Krug and some others and McCafferty, there's widespread non-reporting of violent crimes in South Africa. And the murder rate for farmers is 37.5 murders per 100,000 people. And that's using the very low estimate of 15 murders in 2018. But I've heard other estimates that there was over 100, so this would be significantly higher. There's been reports from AfriForum that there was 20 times more farmers killed in South Africa than any other country in the world, which is really just, it should be shocking. I'm not really surprised because you can see what's going on here. Because they have these political parties like the ANC and the EFF, which is the Economic Freedom Fighters. They're advocating for the seizure of the white land, and the EFF goes even further. They're one of their head leader guys. He used to be in charge of the ANC, Julius Malema. He has said before that he does not. We're not calling for the slaughtering of white people, at least for now. And as soon as he said "at least for now," the entire audience, because this was at a rally, they just started cheering because they wanted to go and have farm murders. This is the EFF.
I'll play that before you go any further. I'll play that video right now so people have the context.
We don't know what peace looks like. They've been living peacefully. They've been swimming in a pool of privilege. They've been enjoying themselves because they always owned our land. We, the rightful owners, our peace was disturbed by white men's arrival here. They committed a black genocide. They killed our people during land dispossession. Today, we are told, don't disturb them. Even when they disturbed our peace, they found peaceful Africans here. They killed them. They slaughtered them like animals. We are not calling for the slaughtering of white people, at least for now.
Jesus.
What we are calling for is for peaceful occupation of the land.
Peaceful occupation of land.
About that.
Yeah, no.
That's pretty bad. I've seen that last bit of the video, but seeing the whole thing makes it worse because he basically sounds like a social justice warrior, a communist. Oh, we are an oppressed class. Oh, they have privilege. Oh, so therefore we are justified in taking away property rights, throwing them out the window, and taking people's lands that aren't ours, and just saying fuck it.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. And the fact of the matter is, the EFF is basically Black Lives Matter on steroids. This isn't even the most egregious thing. Their actual actions. Malema praised his supporters for destroying an H&M store after that. There was a monkey shirt. It was the greatest monkey in the jungle, and then they had riots in South Africa over that. It's just insane. And he's also said, during a rally, go after a white man, we're cutting the throat of whiteness. This sounds like something you would see. Honestly, it's scary. It sounds like something you'd hear on a college campus from a liberal professor. The EFF is basically the Hitler Youth, the Black Hitler Youth. That's exactly what they are. They're a dangerous terrorist organization that has taken control of the government and the youth by storm because they're promised all this free stuff. They're promised free land, and that's you can't just do that. It's going to completely screw up their economy, and rightfully so. Because who's going to want to invest in a country that will seize the land? And they've already begun doing this. There was one fellow, according to news.au, that he had his land like basically their equivalent of eminent domain stolen from the government.
Mm-hmm.
And they offered, like, the land was worth $200 million. Or not 200 million, it was like 200 million rand, so that'd be like $20 million. But he ended up getting 10% of that because they completely like devalued it, and they're basically stealing it without actually having to do the constitutional amendment. And they've had there's a list of 190 farms to be seized by the government. And so, this is just like going to kill them in the long run. And the thing is, like, if the land was actually proven to be owned by someone and it was taken during the apartheid era, or if their like bodies were buried on it, you could go and you'd be compensated. You'd either be given money or you'd be given the land back. And most people, like, if they got the land back, it'd end up going foul and they'd sell it to white farmers. And that's why you see 72% of private farmlands owned by whites, because they've had like years, and it's like a family tradition of farming. Mm-hmm. And when you see these like figures and stuff from CNN, they're saying, "Oh, this is so racist." That's a bunch of BS. And when you guys say these, these fake statistics where they're like, "Oh, only 15 people were killed by in the farm murders," when according to AFRIFORM in 2016 there was 82 farm killings and 423 attacks. I don't know. I think that was either 2016 or 2017. It's probably even more now. I'm in various groups, and I talk to these people, and it's like almost every day I keep seeing more and more like farm attacks and this and that, and no one's reporting out. The government actively tries to hide this. Mm-hmm. And like they've had presidents who's saying about killing white people with like automatic weapons. This is, like according to a separate organization like genocidewatch.org, they're on stage 5 of the genocide cycle, and like stage 9 is like full-on extermination. So what Trump said, and he didn't even all he said is he wanted to go and study the large-scale killings. So I don't see why that's wrong to go and study these things, because the South African government can't be trusted to go and report on these fairly, because it'll make them look bad. And especially like right now, like their economy's tanking, the violent crime's rising. Of course, they're not going to want to report more murders. Good Lord knows what their actual like crime rate is. Like, it's a crazy country if you've ever seen it. Yeah. Like, people have it's a door-to-door existence. I think that was from farmlands, and I've seen videos and pictures. Like, people get their cars stolen really easily. I think they made like this like flame flutter device that you install in your car to go and prevent people from carjacking you, because it's so prevalent. And it's just really ridiculous when they throw these figures out. 72% of farms, or like 72% of lands owned by whites. Well, actually, it's 72% of private farmland. So that's not 72% of the total land in the country. And you also fail to consider the fact that like these guys have been on their farms since like some of them before the United States was even made, like since like the 1600s, 1700s. Their family's been on these lands. Like, when the white person came to South Africa, there really wasn't too many people living there because it's a desert. Like, they did all these intricate things to go and make it arable to farm. And that's why when they steal the land, there's not much they can do. And that's why there's like droughts and famines and all this stuff going on there now when they scare the white farmers away. And it's really the only like job that white people can have in South Africa when you think about it, because they have this thing called Black economic empowerment, which basically makes it so that if you're white, like it's really difficult to get a job, because only like 8% of workers can be white. There's affirmative action to umpteenth degree. So like farmers, it's self-employed. That's like one of the only jobs you can really have, because they have all these sanctions if you have more than 8% of whites in your workforce, and that's why you see infrastructure failing too. Because, in South Africa, whites are some of the most highly qualified people, and they're not allowed to be hired because of racist laws. And, you could go and say, oh, it's apartheid's fault, you have to go and right the wrongs. Yeah, but if by doing this, you're only hurting, they're hurting the black people the most, because they're not going to be able to get affordable food when it's left who actually can farm very well, because it's so much crazy stuff is involved to go and make it, like farmlands. And like right now, there's a huge drought, and that some of it might be in response to the Black economic empowerment and like kicking out all the non-white, like all the white engineers and stuff to go and monitor the dams and all this other like hydroelectrics and what have you. And once they can't go and give the farms the water, then no one gets food. So it's a win-win situation to stop this stuff. And the government has, both parties, like both the major parties, like the ANC, which is currently in the lead, and then the EFF, which is growing. They're both talking about amending the Constitution to steal white land, and they're happy about this. That's not how you do it. If you want to get someone's land, you need to go and pay them a fair deal for it, a fair amount of money. You can't just steal it from them. And so basically, from my perspective, CNN, they're just going on a complete biased, going painting this as white supremacist. It's all BS. They just want to go and ignore this huge issue. But thankfully, Trump responded to it, and his followers, they know what's really going on in South Africa. They don't listen to the fake news who'll lie to you. They'll spit in their face and laugh at you, and they'll tell you, that's not spit, that's holy water. I'm a priest. That's what the left thinks they are. They're like these little priests over here. But the only thing they're doing is they're actually like demons in disguise, like this, like satanic priests. This is holy water when it was actually like the blood of a virgin sprinkled on your face. That's what they're doing. They are they're telling lies on a massive scale. And this is why Trump says you can't trust the media, because the mainstream media, you can't. You really can't. Just look at these, all the news articles about this. This is why you can't trust the news media. This is why CNN, MSNBC, ABC, all that stuff, they're false news. Like, the only one who actually talked about was Fox. And, they have their biases too. But, you could always listen to us, because at least we won't give you that crap. We'll at least look at both sides of the story. And I'll admit, some people, they say it's a white genocide. It's not quite there yet, but it's a really bad situation. And crime's bad across South Africa, but especially for the white farmers.
Yeah, even Lauren Southern said in her documentary and showed that it's not a white genocide, but it could be, if you're going at this rate. But you mentioned that CNN video. Let's take a look at that. Because at first I saw CNN in their article. It sounded actually not that bad of a headline. It was kind of fair. But then I saw the video. And the video says, Trump tweets false white supremacist talking point. Let's see what they have to say for this.
Trump directed him to do it all. Manafort may flip, Cohen may provide other evidence.
The president did nothing wrong. There are no charges against him.
Impeachment. This is what they wanted for a long time.
Amid a storm.
Oh, see, they're framing it right here at the beginning of this clip as it's a distraction from the Cohen stuff. That's already how they're framing it.
Of legal implications, political questions, and even talk of impeachment.
If I ever got impeached, I think the market would crash.
He's going to predict the market better than you hacks. You guys were wrong. You said the stock market would crash when he became president.
It was a tweet from left field.
It's not out of fucking left field, CNN. This literally just happened. And it's an international problem. Because these people are leaving this country, okay? And they're coming here, they're coming to other places. This isn't out of left field. Stop acting like that he's trying to cover up for Cohen stuff. Nobody gives a shit about that.
I've asked Secretary of State Pompeo to closely study the South Africa land and farm seizures and expropriations and the large-scale killing of farmers. The tweet was apparently spurred by a story on the president's favorite channel.
The president's favorite channel.
South Africa's Cyril Ramaphosa has begun, and you may have seen this in the press, seizing land from his own citizens without compensation because they are the wrong skin color.
Yes, that's literally what's happening. Why is this controversial? I mean, you literally just played the clip there, CNN. Shocked you did.
It's true the South African government is in a fierce debate over politics ahead of next year's elections.
Oh, they're just in a fierce debate over politics before the next election. Are you fucking with me?
Debate on whether to allow some white-owned farms to be seized and handed to black citizens, reparation for years of apartheid.
Dude, they're literally doing that now. This isn't a debate. It literally happened and other outlets report on it. I don't know, I bet you guys didn't, but they literally are doing that.
AfriForum, an activist group that mainly represents white South Africans, has called for international intervention.
Millions of people in this country need your protection.
South Africa's president says the issue will be debated by the public and in parliament. But is large-scale killing of farmers underway?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's not. Trump didn't say it was a genocide. He didn't. He chose his words carefully there when he said large scale, which means this is a problem, and it's a big problem, and it is. This isn't controversial. There are facts to back this up, as Mr. Alex pointed out. Uh, but again, CNN is downplaying something as usual.
Not according to a study last year from a large South African farmers group, which found while violence and
I wish they would link the source to this study here. They say it's a South African farmers group, but I want to know more because I can't trust
rural
these
parts
sources.
of the country remains high, attacks on farmers have actually been declining. Trump's tweet was based on false information, government officials quickly said, calling them hysterical comments. Still, the false notion of white South African farmers under genocidal fire is a popular trope with white supremacists, neo-Nazis, and conspiracy theorists.
You want to know what else is a popular trope among neo-Nazis, white supremacists, and all those people? Identity politics. Who else does identity politics? Your fucking side. Oh, you guys must be white nationalists then, right? You guys must be white supremacists then. You share this one little thing in common. That doesn't mean that he is one of these people and that he is basing it or echoing it, as a fucking Vox article said. I mean, it's such a silly attack. And it's, they keep doing it. It's silly and annoys me.
Some of whom have plenty to like in President Trump.
They don't have plenty to like in him, to be honest with you. He just deported a Nazi, might I add.
Comments about some African countries, his attacks on...
Oh, those weren't about some African countries. They were about shithole countries. And that's not a controversial thing. If you want to defend these shithole countries, show pictures of these countries. You didn't, because they're shitholes. They're bad, they're sucky. And if I remember correctly, he wasn't talking about just African countries. And it's not because of their skin color, it's because of their fucking economic conditions. And their shit. They are. It's just a fact.
Protesting football players and more.
Oh my god. Just because he's protesting football players doesn't mean he hates black people or he's a white supremacist. Stop this. Guys, this is really silly looking. You do realize there are whites in the NFL. You do realize hashtag not all football players are black. That's a bit of a stereotypical assumption there, CNN. And Jesus Christ, like it just... He attacks the NFL for kneeling during national anthem. Oh, he's a white supremacist. No! He calls shithole country shitholes. He's a white supremacist. No!
Even as he insists he's no racist.
I am the least racist person you have ever interviewed. That I can tell you.
So, to be clear, as far as we can find, the president has never before directly tweeted about any issues in Africa, and now that he has chosen to do so, he has forwarded a piece of fake news about the alleged...
Oh, you want to call that fake news? Oh, get fucked, CNN. You guys print fake news. You literally print fake news. Print fake news about Comey saying he was going to say this and that and he didn't. And his testimony, stop it. Stop acting like you're having the moral high ground here. And he tweeted about it now because there was a development and it was, it's getting worse. So I think, that's a reason to tweet about it.
Plight of white people living there.
Oh my god, that was cancer. 2 minutes and 25 seconds of cancer. Any final thoughts here? Because I honestly don't know what's going to happen, but I think it's also funny that CNN is actually being anti-interventionist here. Whereas, when Iraq war is happening, it's like, oh yeah, we got to do this because reasons.
Well, yeah, I think that we're going to have to do something because people are getting pissed off about this. Like, we've sanctioned South Africa before during apartheid, and this is starting to go and get right back up to that. And I think that's only fair to go and do. You can't have it both ways. You can't have your cake and eat it too. If you start being a complete racist country, you need to be punished for it, and discriminating against people who've been there for hundreds of years. Yeah, I think that's what's going to end up happening. Is there's going to be sanctions, and I hope so. I hope there's sanctions, and I think we need to start getting prepared because I honestly don't know what's going to happen in this country. But I do know one thing: if they take the land, you're going to go the way of Zimbabwe, and you don't want that.
I'm going to play devil's advocate here. Because people flipped out when Trump sent some bombs in Syria. They're like, oh, we voted for no interventionism. We voted for an anti-interventionalist. Isn't this interventionalism?
Well, sometimes, like, there's certain points where you have to intervene when there's, like, actively discriminating against these people, like, on a race basis. I think that's appropriate. Like, no one screamed, like, very few people, if any, screamed, like, interventionalists when we invaded, like, when we stopped, like, Hotel Rwanda or whatever, whoever intervened in that may have been the UN. Like the Rwanda genocide, people didn't complain when we tried to go and stop the genocides going on during the, like the Balkan Wars, like with the Yugoslavia breakup. There are certain times when you can actually do this, and this is like well documented. There isn't some WND here, and there's a lot more reason for us to be here than to be in the Middle East. I think, like half the place in the Middle East. We need to go and pull out of there. We've been there long enough, and if we're going to use our military, may as well go and like actually do something beneficial with it.
Yeah, fair point. Fair point. Well, I'm gonna make my last prediction, which I think South Africa right now is a shithole country, pretty much. Like, they do have resources and whatnot, but lots of crime. It's pretty bad. Cape Town, I think, is the only town that's actually kind of nice, but everything else is pretty shit. It's just gonna get worse. I don't see any improvements happening. It's just going to become a third world country if it really isn't considered one yet. I don't see any progress happening unless somebody takes over the country. I don't see anything else happening.